I'm a goofy goober, yeah. You're a goofy goober, yeah. We're all goofy goobers, yeah. Goofy, 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 goofy goober. And if you haven't been able to figure out what we're talking about today from that intro, alright there guys, and welcome to Let's Talk About the SpongeBob SquarePants movie, released in 2004. This is one of 3 existing SpongeBob movies, with 2 more on the way, one next month, one in a couple of months, and one either next year or the year after, I can't remember which. But this movie was originally supposed to be the finale of SpongeBob. That's what Steven Hillenburg, the creator of SpongeBob, who sadly passed away in 2018, his original vision for SpongeBob was the first 3 seasons of the show, which people call the golden age of SpongeBob, and then the movie, and that's it, nothing else. Considering since then there's been nearly 10 more seasons of the show, 2 more movies with another 2 on the way, and the show recently celebrated its 25-year anniversary just over a month ago. Yeah, it's still going, and it doesn't seem like it's going to stop anytime soon. But let's get into the movie. So the movie begins not in Bikini Bottom, but in the real world, on the surface above the sea, with a real pirate crew on a pirate ship sailing through the ocean when they see a person who's calling out for help, who's stranded in the ocean. They hoist him up, and he has a treasure chest that he was holding on to. The pirate captain opens the chest, and it's tickets to the SpongeBob movie. And then the SpongeBob theme song starts playing, but the pirate crew are actually the ones singing it as they port their ship and head into the cinema to watch the SpongeBob movie. Then the movie actually begins with a lot of police surrounding the Krusty Krab, with Mr. Krabs saying, "It's a delicate situation. I don't want to discuss it more until my manager gets here." SpongeBob turns up in a pretty snazzy looking car and says, "Talk to me, Krabs." Mr. Krabs explains to SpongeBob that a customer ordered a Krabby Patty with cheese, and there's no cheese. SpongeBob said, "Get a hold of yourself, Eugene, I'm going in." SpongeBob goes into the Krusty Krab, and the guy who ordered the Krabby Patty says, "I'm really scared, man." SpongeBob says, "Got a name? Phil? Got a family, Phil?" And then Phil starts crying even more. And a line that isn't supposed to be funny, but for some reason I just find this line really funny. SpongeBob goes, "Come on, Phil, stay with me. Let's hear about that family." I don't know why I find that funny. I just do. And he says, "I got a wife and 2 beautiful children." And SpongeBob says, "That's what it's all about." "I want you to do me a favor, Phil." "What?" "Say cheese." SpongeBob carefully places the cheese into the Krabby Patty, opens the door with the cheese sparkling, and says, "Order up." And then everyone says, "3 cheers for the manager. Hip hip," brrr, as SpongeBob's air horn alarm clock starts going off. SpongeBob wakes up and gets ready to celebrate the grand opening of the Krusty Krab 2. A brand new restaurant Mr. Krabs is opening, where he will be also announced the new manager of the Krusty Krab 2. SpongeBob sneaks into Squidward's house and starts brushing his back in the shower. Take that information how you want. SpongeBob tells Squidward that he's going to thank him in his acceptance speech of becoming the manager of the Krusty Krab 2. Squidward, as usual, is not thrilled and kicks SpongeBob out of his house through the window. Then SpongeBob ends up at Patrick's Rock, and the 2 of them start singing the Gooby Goober song that I introed the video singing. SpongeBob heads off to the Krusty Krab, and Perch Perkins is there ready to interview Mr. Krabs. says, "Congratulations, Mr. Krabs." "Hello, I like money." "What inspired you to build a second Krusty Krab right next to the original?" "Money." Yes, I can recite many of the lines from this movie, no matter how long I can go without watching it. Although it's not actually been that long since I did watch it, maybe a few months. I can recite many of the lines of this movie. It's that good. So Mr. Krabs gives a big build-up of anticipation for who's going to be the new manager of the Krusty Krab 2. SpongeBob, of course, thinks it's going to be him, and it ends up being Squidward. SpongeBob doesn't even notice that, and says, "People are bikini as the manager." And then everything Mr. Krabs tells SpongeBob, he repeats it into the microphone so everyone knows what Mr. Krabs just said. Meanwhile, across the street in the chum bucket, Plankton is about to burst a blood vessel. He's so angry. Because he still wants the Krabby Patty secret formula so people will eat at the chum bucket. He said he's gone through every single plan he's got from A to Y. Then Karen says, "What about plan Z?" Yeah, apparently Plankton never finish the alphabet because he thinks the alphabet only goes from A to Y. Then he looks at plan Z and it's very evil. Mr. Krabs tells SpongeBob he didn't get the job because he's a kid. So SpongeBob leaves and heads off to Gooby Goobers saying, "I'm ready. Depression." So SpongeBob goes to Gooby Goobers that very night and is crying into the ice cream bar. And then he says, "I know, I'll just stop thinking about it. I don't even know why I was sad." And then Patrick walks in and says, it's the new Krusty Krab 2 manager." And SpongeBob starts crying again. SpongeBob tells Patrick what happened, which, if SpongeBob had just stayed a little bit longer, he'll have seen that Patrick came in on some balloons with a flag in his ass that's had SpongeBob's name on it. Yeah, probably a good thing SpongeBob didn't see that part. Meanwhile, Plankton is putting Plan Z into action, stealing the crown of King Neptune. Even though there's two different versions of King Neptune. The one from this movie and then the one that we see in the show. So Plankton steals the crown, and King Neptune goes mentally insane over it, and Plankton frames Mr. Krabs for this. But during that night, SpongeBob's about to head home, but Patrick orders a triple gooberry sunrise, and SpongeBob says, "Triple gooberry sunrise, huh? I guess I could do with one of those." And SpongeBob and Patrick spend the rest of the night eating many triple gooberry sunrises, which is a metaphor for them getting absolutely hammered, if you know what I mean. As they wake up the next morning, well, SpongeBob certainly does, he wakes up with a hangover. King Neptune arrives at the Krusty Krab the following morning, and angrily starts shouting at Mr. Krabs that he stole King Neptune's crown. King Neptune even shows a piece of evidence. It's just a piece of paper that says, "I stole your crown, signed Eugene Krabs." Why would Mr. Krabs have written that? Obviously it was Plankton that did that. Then he said, "But this is crazy, I didn't do it." And then the Krusty Krab phone goes and he says, "Hi Mr. Krabs, this is Clay, the guy you sold the crown to, Neptune's crown." Mr. Krabs starts punching the phone to break it. He even rips it out of its plug socket and it still keeps going. The crown is in Shell City. And King Neptune freezes Mr. Krabs. and gives SpongeBob 6 days to find Neptune's crown. But the only people that believe in SpongeBob and Patrick, well, the only person is King Neptune's daughter, Mindy, who Patrick is pretty infatuated with. Patrick seems to have a thing specifically for mermaids. Because there's that one episode of the show where everything is getting, from the Bikini Bottom, is being sucked into a different dimension, and there's a bunch of mermaids there, and Patrick is like, jeez, I want a piece of that. So SpongeBob and Patrick head down to the Krusty Krab's basement, to the Paddy Wagon, which is a car that looks like a Krabby Patty. And Patrick says, wait, I think you didn't have a license. And SpongeBob says, now this line goes so hard. He says, you don't need a license to drive a sandwich. So SpongeBob and Patrick make their journey off towards Shell City to save the town. They end up at a gas station and they say, fill her up please. And the two guys there say, what'll it be, fellas? Mustard or ketchup? Because the Paddy Wagon looks like a Krabby Patty. SpongeBob and Patrick tell the two guys where they're going. And the two guys immediately realise SpongeBob and Patrick are probably gonna die. And said, you won't last 10 seconds over the county line. The two of them go across the county line. And then there's immediately a guy that says, out of the car, fellas. So they get out and he drives it away. And they say, how many seconds was that? 12. And then SpongeBob and Patrick start say, in your face, and then they start laughing as they continue their journey. Meanwhile, Plankton has stolen the Krabby Patty secret formula from the Krusty Krab, and now he is selling Krabby Patties at the Chum Bucket, and business, for the first time ever for him, is booming. But he's also got another trick up his sleeve. He gives everybody who buys a Krabby Patty at the Chum Bucket a literal bucket to put on their head, which is actually is able to mind control them. And Plankton makes the entire population of Bikini Bottom start building him an empire, as Plankton has become the dictator of Bikini Bottom. Stealing the Krabby Patty formula wasn't enough for him. He needed to as he would say, rule the world, as that's what he said he was going to do right at the beginning. Karen tells Plankton that SpongeBob and Patrick are still on their way to Shell City, and Plankton says, way ahead of you. I've already got someone who can deal with them. And then we're introduced to Dennis, a hitman hired by Plankton to kill SpongeBob and Patrick. When he arrives at the gas station that SpongeBob and Patrick did from earlier, the two guys at the gas station, just like with SpongeBob and Patrick, start laughing at him. So he rips their mouths off. Legit, he just grabs both of their mouths and rips them off, and then sets on his way. SpongeBob and Patrick arrive at a place called the Thug Tug, which has a lot of very menacing-looking people in there. SpongeBob and Patrick notice the key, which is a spatula, on the guy who sold their car from them earlier. And my favourite scene in the whole movie comes up next, where SpongeBob and Patrick are sat just outside of it, and SpongeBob says, the key, but how do we get it? And Patrick says, I know, walking and asking for it. And then you hear in the background someone say, what are you looking at? And you hear some guy getting the crap beaten out of him. By far my favourite scene in the whole movie. It's so damn funny. So SpongeBob and Patrick go in there to try and create a distraction. Patrick says, I need to use the bathroom. SpongeBob almost grabs the key, but then the guy sees him, so they have to both go to the bathroom. But the soap dispenser produces bubbles. And considering SpongeBob and Patrick quite like bubbles, they start playing around with them. But then the owner of the Thug Tug says, "Hey, who blew this bubble? We got a rule around here about blowing bubbles. All bubble blowing double babies will be beaten senselessly." SpongeBob and Patrick try to sneak out, but they don't quite make it. And the owner of the Thug Tug decides the only way to find out who the bubble blowing double baby is to put on the Goofy Goober theme song. SpongeBob and Patrick desperately try their hardest not to sing along to it, to the point where they literally start melting. But then these conjoined guys start singing it. So everyone starts beating the crap out of those two, and SpongeBob and Patrick sneak off, of which Patrick managed to grab the key. So the two of them head back on their way. Then, later on, Dennis also arrives at the same place. He blows a bubble and sees SpongeBob and Patrick's faces in it, because that's who he's being hired to kill. The owner of the Thug Tug says the whole bubble blowing double baby thing, but Dennis just punches him once he lands in the Thug Tug, and then the Thug Tug literally descends further down, so where no one's getting back in there. SpongeBob and Patrick end up at a pretty ominous place with a lot of skulls and bones, where they see a random ice cream shop where SpongeBob orders some ice cream, only to find out the old lady selling it isn't as innocent as once thought, as she's actually part of a much larger monster that starts chasing SpongeBob and Patrick. And the two of them end up getting to the edge of the road, and there's no more road left, so SpongeBob and Patrick jump out of the paddy wagon. The monster jumps off the cliff, eats the paddy wagon, and then an even larger fish monster eats that monster. So SpongeBob and Patrick realise they don't have the car anymore, so what are they meant to do? SpongeBob then basically decides that this is the time to give up and starts heading back home. So to stop them from feeling down about the situation, Mindy shows up and shows how bad it's actually getting in Bikini Bottom and with King Neptune. She realises that SpongeBob and Patrick don't believe in themselves to continue on with the mission, thinking that they're kids, so she says, "That's why I'll just have to turn you into men. With my mermaid magic." She doesn't have any magic. She just picks up some seaweed and puts it on SpongeBob and Patrick's faces to imitate mustaches, and they fall for it. And instead of going down the stairs to the bottom of the pit that they're in, they just jump off the cliff, thinking they're invincible. So they jump off, start celebrating, and then they're like, Patrick? Yeah, buddy? Why did we just jump off the cliff instead of taking the stairs? Well, They realise that they probably shouldn't have jumped off the cliff, but they land on they land on a vine that takes them gently down to the bottom, where the two of them think they're invincible. And they start singing the iconic song, "Now That We're Men." Another great SpongeBob music track. Just like the Goofy Goober theme song and another Goofy Goober related song right at the end. So SpongeBob and Patrick make their way down the bottom of the pit. And they They even impress all the monsters there before returning to the top. And they return, and there's a sign that says Shell City straight ahead. But this is where SpongeBob and Patrick run into Dennis for the first time. Dennis has very spiky boots, and he rips the seaweed off SpongeBob and Patrick's faces to make them realise they never had mustaches. He's about to step on them because Plankton specifically requested SpongeBob and Patrick to be killed by being stood on, because that always happens to him. But just as it's about to happen, a significantly bigger boot than Dennis's stands on him. Only for SpongeBob and Patrick to look up and realise it's the Cyclops, someone Mindy had warned them about earlier. The Cyclops captures SpongeBob and Patrick and takes them to Shell City, because Shell City is actually a gift shop. Do you think it's the same gift shop that Mr. Krabs warned SpongeBob and Patrick about when they were playing hooky back in season 1, I think it was? Do you think it's the same gift shop? So SpongeBob and Patrick end up getting taken to Shell City and they see Neptune's crown. But they look around and realise that all the fish in there are dead. And they're probably next. They get put under a lamp, which, due to the fact that there's no water, it starts killing them. So SpongeBob and Patrick start singing a much sadder version of the Goofy Goober song, as both of them shed a tear, which ends up going below them. Then the two of them die. Yes, the two of them quite literally die, and all of the pirates in the cinema from the beginning start crying at the death of SpongeBob and Patrick. But the tear that they cried out makes its way down the wire into the plug socket of the lamp, turning the lamp off and having smoke go up towards the ceiling, which turns on some sprinklers, which revives SpongeBob and Patrick and all of the other fish in Shell City. Also, it seems Mr. Puff, Mrs. Puff's husband, who got turned into a lamp, even he gets revived, but we never see him again after this movie. It's literally just this one scene. So all of the fish that had been killed by the Cyclops start beating the crap out of him, as SpongeBob and Patrick escape Shell City with Neptune's crown and reach the ocean from the beach that Shell City is located at, and the magical bag of wind that Mindy gave them right at the beginning, just before they set off. SpongeBob is reading the instructions on how to use it. Point bag away from home. Gotcha. So Patrick points it facing the other way. Says, release string from bag. Patrick pulls off the string and the bag just flies straight through his arm and goes into the water without them. So how are they going to get down to Bikini Bottom now? Well, Mr. David Hasselhoff just happens to show up at the perfect time. Says, I can help with that. Who are you? I'm David Hasselhoff. David Hasselhoff basically is able to swim like he's a jet ski, where he can literally just glide along the water without even using his arms or legs. He just glides like he's a machine. But one of the Cyclops' boots is closing in on them, and Dennis happens to be inside of it. He climbs out of it, chases after SpongeBob and Patrick, slaps Patrick all the way back to where he's hanging on to David Hasselhoff's foot to stay on, SpongeBob also gets thrown after having a bunch of bubbles go into Dennis's eyes. Patrick grabs hold of SpongeBob, and then Dennis ends up hitting his head on a little platform in the middle of the ocean that takes him out. So SpongeBob and Patrick are saying that they don't know how they're going to get down to Bikini Bottom in time to stop Neptune executing Mr. Krabs. David Hasselhoff, don't worry about that. He puts SpongeBob and Patrick on top of the crown, puts the crown basically here, and his abs become some sort of like cannon where he just shoots them back down to Bikini Bottom. They go crashing through the roof of the Krusty Krab. Neptune's fire that comes out of his staff hits the crown, goes back up, goes back up and burns David Hasselhoff. SpongeBob finally got the crown and is ready to give it to Neptune, but Plankton also puts a bucket on top of Neptune's head so he can mind control him as well. And then this is where SpongeBob breaks out into an incredible rock bat version of the Goofy Goober song, and he also garns the outfit that he's wearing in the thumbnail of this video. And the guitar he has is able to shoot a blast into the buckets and destroy them. So SpongeBob is able to take the mind control away from Plankton. And after he does that, all of the citizens of Bikini Bottom go to the Krusty Krab, and Plankton says, "Out of my way, fools!" And then they all stand on him. Plankton gets arrested. Neptune turns Mr. Krabs back to normal. First, he turns him into a human because he had his setting. He put the setting to real boy. That's a bit cursed. Then turns him back to normal Mr. Krabs. Neptune and Mindy leave, and Mr. Krabs hands SpongeBob the role of the Krusty Krab 2 manager. And SpongeBob says, "This is the greatest day of my life." And the movie ends with the song Ocean Man. And the way the movie ends, and like the music choice they have and the images they show throughout the credits, it kind of did feel like it would be a perfect way to end the franchise. But it's 20 years later after that movie, 10 more seasons of the show, near enough, 2 more movies on the way, and 25-year anniversary the show just celebrated. But yeah, overall, the SpongeBob SquarePants movie is so damn good. It's an amazing movie, and the 2 that came out, I actually don't dislike either of the other 2 movies that came out after the first one, but they're nowhere near as good as the first one. The first one will always be the best. And that shall conclude today's video. I hope you guys have enjoyed. If you have, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and until we meet again, farewell.